Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name is Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. A massive session for us tonight, following on from really successful ones for our EE members on Monday. Yesterday, BT Group. Today, we have Openreach, the biggest group of our members in this National Industrial Action Ballot. Delighted to be joined going from the left on your screen by our Deputy General Secretary, Telecoms and Financial Services, Andy Kerr. Evening, Andy.
Right, yes.
We've got Acting National Officer Fiona Curtis. Evening, Fiona.
Evening.
And we've got President of the CW, Karen Rose. Evening, Karen.
Evening, Chris.
So we've got loads and loads to get through. And what we want to say from the off is this isn't our session, it's your session. This is a great opportunity for you to ask the leaders of the union as many questions as we can possibly put in. Also, alongside that, let us know that you're backing us. Let us know you're voting yes. Let us know how long you've been a union member. Let us know where you're watching from. And critically, tag your colleagues, share the link, get it in the WhatsApp groups around work, and let's get as many people as we possibly can online. I can already see we've been live for a minute and there's nearly 2,000 people in the room, which is absolutely fantastic. Really, really good. So I want to be able to put as many as your questions. That's the key thing tonight. So get asking them and I'll start scouring the comments. Whilst to do that, I'm going to ask each of our panel tonight just to set out for a moment or two what this dispute's about and what is at stake for our Openreach members. Starting with you, Fiona, if I can.
Thanks, Chris. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to all of our Openreach members for all of your hard work over the last few years. Whether you've been out in the field, in the exchanges, at the desk, or working from home, you, and I mean you, have kept this country going. Without our Openreach members, especially throughout the pandemic, we would not have been able to keep in contact with our friends and family. Businesses would not have been able to continue to function. People had to rely on video calls to see their relatives and friends. We shopped online and we kept ourselves entertained with various streaming services. Without you, that would not have been possible. You've been doing installs, faults, fibre build, network planning, maintaining and improving the existing network, and lots more. This country, thanks should go to you. BT Group's annual report actually states, Openreach tirelessly kept millions of UK connections running at a critical moment in history, so customers around the country could work from home, attend online lessons, and communicate with loved ones. And yet, this company are not willing to pay you a decent pay rise, when in reality, you have seen a pay cut in real terms for the last few years. Last year, £1,000 one-off payment was not a cost of living pay rise, and neither was the 1.5% you got the year before. So in reality, your pay is worth less now than it was in 2019. This company has made well over £1 billion in profit this year alone, and they are intending to pay out shareholders dividends of £761 million. During the pandemic, BT were clearly highly profitable, and they are choosing to reward the shareholders and not you, the loyal workforce. Bills are increasing in every direction. UK households are facing a cost of living crisis with inflation at the highest rate for 30 years. It's been reported that in one Openreach site, we actually had a food bank. They were called Openreach Food Fair. And I happen to be in a building where we have the lowest paid Openreach staff. The message being portrayed was that we are Openreach family. If we are Openreach family, then surely you should be getting paid enough that you do not need food banks or food fairs when working for a blue chip company. The company may say they can't afford to pay you more, and yet they can find money for advertisements, for celebrities, and they can put on massive functions costing tens of thousands at one time. In 2022, Philip Johnson, the BT CEO, saw a 32% increase on his previous year's income. The Chief Financial Officer has also seen an increase of 25% from the previous year. So increases at more than double the rate of inflation is okay for them, but not for you, our members. They won't even give you a cost of living pay rise. This ballot is your chance to have a voice. Your say as to whether the pay rise BT has imposed is good enough. This union believes in democracy, unlike the company. We have heard you tell us how the cost of living is impacting you, and this pay rise is not good enough. Now you've got the chance for your voice to be heard. We need you all to make sure you vote and vote yes. Please tell your colleagues all to vote yes. The company did not allow you to have your say before they imposed the pay rise. A massive yes vote will be a message to the company that the pay rise is not good enough and their imposition is unacceptable. A ballot for strike action is not something we take lightly. It is a huge step, but we have no choice. There comes a point where we need to stand together and send a loud, clear, and powerful message to the company. The imposition of pay deals, or anything else for that matter, is completely unacceptable. You are the people making the profits for this company. We will stick together in this ballot, vote together, and we will win together.
Thank you, Fiona. Absolutely fantastic. And a huge, obviously, as I said last night, it's much the same this night, if not even bigger levels of support. So it's a privilege to be able to see that coming in. Andy, just a word or two from yourself to set the scene as well.
Yeah, well, I think Fiona's covered most of the bases, and but the message is quite clear. And just to make it clear to everybody in Openreach, this ballot is about pay and the imposition of pay, both of which are really important. Obviously, the amount of money that BT are offering us is not enough, and we were looking for a cost of living pay rises, as Fiona has just sort of outlined. But the imposition of pay is a major thing, because if we let the company away with imposition on this, who knows what's going to happen down the road, because we've already seen impositions over the last a year or so with unagreed pay points, etc. But that's not what the dispute's about. The dispute is about pay and the imposition of pay. And let me just say a couple of myths that's no doubt that will be said to you over the next few weeks when your managers come round and speak to you, because we're now aware that that's the case. That some managers will be speaking to you over the next few days. One of the things that BT may say is that we denied you, the members, a vote in this on pay. That is not true. Absolutely not true. BT's position was that they gave £1,500, what they said was a full and final offer to us. It wasn't so much an offer. They said that's what it was, and no more was going to be given. And they said they were going to implement it, whether we agreed it or not, in the April salaries, and they did. It was on that basis your executive rejected it completely, both the amount, because it certainly wasn't enough, and the point it was imposed. So we were not allowed, and you were not allowed a say in whether you thought it was enough or not. It wasn't the union that denied you, it was the company that denied you. And let's be absolutely clear about that. So we are in this situation now, and we now have to stand up and fight. And this is we don't do this lightly. We never have been into these situations lightly, but we are where we are. And the ballot will start next week, as Chris has outlined earlier. We have served notice in the company yesterday, and we're absolutely serious. The ballot papers will arrive next Wednesday, Thursday, next week. And all the thing I would say at the outset here, Chris, is that I'd ask all the members to make sure that next week, Wednesday, Thursday, when it comes into your through your letter box, lift that envelope up, open it up, read the documentation, make sure you vote yes, and get it back in that post box as soon as possible. And the last thing I'll say, once you've done that, don't just leave it there. Make sure you get back into your workplace. Start speaking about pay. Talk to your fellow workers and make sure they vote too. We need a massive vote in this one. We want everybody to participate in this ballot, and we want everybody, obviously, to vote yes. I'm confident that our members in Openreach, because of what's happened to them, and they've seen it, there's some of the issues that's happened to them over the last few years, is going to potentially get worse. So this is a time to stand up and fight. This is a time to say to the company, enough is enough. We deserve more. You've done the work for it. You're the person, when they've invested in fibre over the last 2 or 3 years, some of the money has come out of your pocket rather than the investment, because what they've done is invested in fibre and they haven't invested in their workers, our members. So please make sure you vote next week. and make sure you speak to your colleagues.
Thank you, Andy. Karen, do you want to say anything to start with?
Yes, just a little bit. So I know that Andy, Fiona first, and then Andy have covered a huge amount. But there's just one thing that I want to say I suppose, emphasising the point. So I think Fiona said, and both Andy and Fiona have actually said, that we do not take a decision for a strike ballot or industrial action ballot lightly, right? But we really have no choice, because what the company have done by deciding how much they wanted to give you as a pay rise and then imposing it without allowing you the opportunity to say whether you accepted it or not, is they have completely, number one, disregarded your needs, because you quite clearly needed a far bigger pay rise in order to keep pace with the cost of living, and they've disregarded your view. And at that point, right, I don't think there is any choice but to take the step, because the only option we had at that point was to take the step of balloted for industrial action, because they did not allow the opportunity for you to be balloted for anything else. So it's very, very clear. This was a final resort step, and we have to get a massive yes vote. So as Andy said, when the ballot paper lands next week, it'll probably be around Thursday, we need you to look out for that envelope, pick up that ballot paper, fill it in, put it back in the return envelope, and send it back, because this is absolutely crucial that we make sure that, particularly in Openreach, because this is a massive ballot in Openreach, it's the biggest ballot of all three, because that's where the largest group of members is. And it's really, really important that we have a massive return so that everybody votes in this ballot. That's the most important thing. Exercise your democratic right and make sure you cast your vote.
Thank you to all of you. So thank you to the members as well who have piled in with your questions, your comments, your supportive messages. It really is fantastic. Again, to re-advertise, please keep sharing the link. Please keep tagging your colleagues. Let's get as many people online as we possibly can. We already had over 4,000 of our members join us tonight, and that's fantastic at this early stage. Fiona, I want to come to you. Loads and loads of members trying to bring these questions together. I want to come to you on the issue of BT saying they can't afford more to deliver a pay rise. I know you went through that in some detail. I mean, you talked about the shareholder dividend, you talked about the profit, and all the circumstances which clearly show they can afford a pay rise. And today there was a big event down in Birmingham at the NEC, which no doubt would have cost like millions, minimum of tens of thousands of pounds, if not more. You know, what would you say to, you know, members who are getting told by management that BT simply can't afford a pay rise?
I would say to members that BT seem to be able to find money for all these different events. They find money, as I said, about getting celebrities to represent them in advertisements, to be there at some of the functions that they actually have. So, as I said before, your BT CEO has had a massive increase on his pay in this year alone as well, and that's public knowledge. So the fact that the BT can find this money for all these different events, clearly the money can be found somewhere for to pay our members for this.
Thank you, Fiona. Andy, and this is a theme, you touched on it last night, you answered the point, but I've seen it now 3 or 4 times in the questions here. So it must be something that's getting more traction out in the field, where we've got our apprentice members who are being told that they're not going to be able to take part in a strike action, and they're not going to be legally protected. And adding to that tonight, we've got new entrants who are saying they want to back the union, but they're being told they can't join the strike. What would you say to that statement?
Chris, it's just another one of the myths. I'm using the word myth because I think it's preferable to call people liars if they're telling you that, because it is a myth. It's completely a myth. Anybody who's a member of this union can take part of industrial action. It doesn't matter whether you've been in the job for 2 weeks or 2 years or 20 years. It makes no difference whatsoever. It makes no difference whether you're a patch lead in Openreach, whether you're a senior engineer in Openreach, a desk engineer in Openreach, or an apprentice, a trainee, or anything. Everyone is entitled to take part in this ballot, and everybody is entitled to take part in industrial action. It's not me saying this, it's the law that says this. So anybody who's saying anything different from that, and I made this point last night. In fact, the Senior Deputy General Secretary of the Union came in and made the point too last night. So I'll make it clear to you. If anybody is saying that to you, any manager or anybody else, please, inform us at head office, inform your branch, we'll send the names on, because we will take action against these people, because it is completely untrue. And I want to make that clear. Anybody who ballot membership, anybody in the team members actually can take industrial action. There's no question about that whatsoever.
Thank you, Andy. Karen, we've got loads and loads of great questions in. Richard is saying he's been a long-term member of the union. He remembers the last national ballot. He's ready to support this one as well, and he's really excited to vote yes. He's also saying, no, back then things were different, branches were smaller, and he remembers a lot of local meetings, and he hasn't had one yet. What would you say to our branches, our reps, and the importance of getting those meetings going in the next week or so?
Look, I think those meetings are important, but I also think that we are in different times. So we're in times these days, particularly after the pandemic, I have to say, and I think Fiona mentioned in her opening about the way that the country resorted to the online platforms in order to have contact with friends and families. And, organisations like ours have also used those online platforms in order to communicate amongst ourselves and with our members. So I think that back in, I don't actually know when Richard is talking about, but the last actual strike action we had was back in 1987, of course. So, and I remember that too, even though I obviously don't look old enough. But back then we didn't have the type of social media, the texting, the emails. We didn't have all those resources available to us. So I think that as much as I believe that face-to-face meetings are really important, I know a lot of branches are holding them up and down the country. And I know the branch officers, where they can, are trying to reach out and speak to members, whether that be by phone or in person, where they're able to meet up with the members themselves. I think that they're not as crucially important to be all that face-to-face meeting, because that was the only method of communication back in 1987. So I don't think we should be too concerned. But I also would say to branches, look, I think there's an awful lot of members that quite clearly would like face-to-face meetings. So I would, if branches haven't been arranging face-to-face meetings, then I would ask them to do so, because the most important thing about getting the message to our members and giving members the opportunity actually to speak to the branch officers or speak to, any of the branch officials and raise their questions or concerns is that they need to give every opportunity to all members through every avenue to be able to do that. So whether that's by phone or by text or by email or by having online meetings via Zoom or other platforms, or by having face-to-face meetings, or being around in branch offices in the workplace, then I think that all of those things is what the branches should be and hopefully are using in order to be having contact with the members.
Thank you, Karen. Fiona, again, so many great questions coming in. I want to touch on the point though around the younger members, because Carl is saying that he's voting yes. He's an old timer. He's voting yes for the younger members, but some of them haven't got the message through to them yet, the union, in terms of our communications, and what more can we do to get our message out there to people who are perhaps newer into the business or younger?
I think it's so important. I just want to say that it is so important that our younger members actually vote, and they vote yes, because it's vital for their future and the future for your future pay rises. Because we don't want next year and the year after and continually pay rises just to be imposed. We need to make sure that we have our voice, and as members and as employees of the company, we want to be able to have your say on what whether you agree to the pay rise and whether you accept the pay rise or not. It is so vitally important that we have that voice, and this is what this ballot is for. But to actually speak to young members, I think this is where these live sessions actually come into play. Again, going out and actually speaking to people, phoning them, texting them, using social media, putting pictures up on your Facebook accounts from branches, getting that message out there, and getting especially other colleagues to speak to other colleagues. And as you said, especially that engine, I'm presuming it's an engineer that has said that. It's just an engineer, but we do classify even our desk as engineer as well across Openreach. But if even the experienced people within Openreach should speak to younger members and say why it is so important to vote, And as we were saying earlier, even the apprentices and trainees, it's so important for them to actually vote and to vote yes in this, because it's for the future and for the future of this company and for the future of you having a say for your livelihood.
Thank you, Fiona. Brilliant. Andy, lots of questions in and around the mechanics of the ballot. People are asking, when will the result be, first of it? And a supplementary question that's quite common is, there's 3 separate ballots. Do we have to win all 3 ballots to be able to take action in all 3 companies?
Well, the answer to the first question, Chris, is the result. The ballot closes on the 30th of June, and the result will be known at some point, probably later that day. It closes sort of round about sort of midday, but we'll have the result, and the result will be known. And obviously, we'll advertise that and make sure people know what the result is quite clearly on all 3 ballots. So we're clear. The question about whether we need to win all 3, the answer really to that is yes. We want to win. We need to win, as far as we're concerned. We really push every one of them. But no, I think the real part, the bit behind the question is, if we won in 2 but not lost in another one, we can only take action in the 2 that we win. So if we won 1, we can take action there. If we win 2, we can take action in 2. Hopefully, we're going to win all 3, and I'm absolutely confident we can win all 3. And then that's when the action takes. We can take it right across the 3 areas: EE, Openreach, and BT PLC. But I hope that sort of clarified that point.
Thank you, Andy. Karen, lots and lots of questions are in and around pay being like a need rather than the request.
Absolutely.
Emily is saying, though, makes a really good point. I think she's saying the turnover. She's never known anything like it across Openreach. The amount of staff leaving, and she believes that's because the cost of living crisis and the pay. People have taken other opportunities to keep their families afloat. Is that a real issue now? Is it a false economy from BT, Openreach, and ETE, where they're saying we can't afford this, but they're constantly paying to retrain people because they're not paying the right rate for the job?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the argument that we've been making with them for some time about the rate for the job. But, there is no doubt that, look, BT, and I think we mentioned this last night when we were talking to, the BT members for the BT ballot, is that the company have introduced unagreed pay rates, right? And the unagreed pay rates are much lower than the pay rates that we've settled on with them. In some cases, because they haven't had a cost of living pay rise since 2019, in actual fact, even on the pay rates that were agreed, that's not enough anymore, because those pay rates have not kept pace with inflation. So we know that there's people who are on the lower salaries in Openreach and BT and EE, and they are struggling to make ends meet, and they are struggling to keep pace with the way the prices are increasing. So we've heard so many stories in the last couple of weeks about our members having to rely on food banks, our members relying on benefits, our members not being able to afford to put petrol in the car, and they're worried about how they're going to get to work. It's an absolute disgrace. And we also know that the attrition rates are hitting the company hard in a lot of places, but in the main, in the areas where the salaries are lower, or at the lower level. So yes, it is a problem. The turnover is higher because of that, and it is a false economy because it must be costing the company an absolute fortune to recruit and to train. And also, in the meantime, of course, if experienced staff are leaving, then they're quite obviously leaving a hole behind that isn't being filled, and that must be affecting the service they're able to deliver. So it's a false economy in so many ways. And getting an increased pay rise and an increase on those pay rates is going to be key, not only for the members, but actually most probably for the company to be able to continue to supply or provide the services that they should be providing.
Thank you, Karen. Fiona, loads and loads of questions from members asking how they can get beyond the campaign, how they can help. Sean is suggesting that as soon as this session finishes, all the Openreach members pile onto workplace and show their support for the union. Is that something we should be doing?
Yes, definitely, 100%. I have been keeping an eye on workplace as well, and there has been a few posts up there, and people have been commenting and showing support. But the more we do that, the more the company can see how much support we actually have out there. So the more people can put it on workplace, like it, share it, support it, even talk to your colleagues, let your colleagues know, make sure as well that they're going to vote yes and the reasons why they should be voting yes. But most importantly, we need to make sure the company know that you're behind the CW. As the CW is, we are all the CW. The CW isn't somebody separate. We are all the CW, and we should all be in this together.
Thank you, Fiona. Andy, a really common question from the members asked lots and lots of times tonight, and it's been asked in the other sessions, is people obviously know where the company are on what they're asking for on pay. What are the union asking for? What are we going into the room and asking for in terms of our demands on pay?
Well, we haven't set an absolute figure on it, because that's not the way to negotiate. Neither would I, even if we had some in mind, we wouldn't be saying it in public. That's not how you negotiate. But quite clearly, we're looking for a cost of living pay increase. That's what we're looking for everybody. And you can see yourselves where inflation is. I mean, ironically, this is the real thing on this. We asked, and we were supposed to start negotiations on pay in December last year. It wasn't the CW that wasn't ready to negotiate. We were willing to negotiate with them, but the company weren't ready to negotiate. Had we negotiated when we said we would, which was part of an agreement, we would have probably got to a settlement by now. But as time went on, inflation was always going to go one way. It didn't take a genius to work that one out of where it was going to go. And it's became harder to do it. And people are finding it harder out there with the inflation it's started to hit. And the worst of it is, certainly I believe, is still to come, because yes, you're going to energy rises come in. Yes, you'll get rises in fuel costs. The food costs that are starting to come in are going to get much worse in the next few weeks and months. So, our people are suffering, as far as I'm concerned out there. It might be in varying degrees and depending on what people's grades are, etc. But everybody deserves a decent pay rise. And that's the issue here. That's what it's all about. And we are quite determined in this one now. Absolutely determined. That, the issue for us, they say, and they give it across as if people are getting 8%. Well, that's another myth in some respects. The 8% is not really 8% at all, because they have accepted the discussions that we had with the company prior to pay, or just in the starter pay, that the pay rates for those lowest paid workers in BT were already too low in the marketplace. So they already had taken the decision, and some of you remember in Consumer EE, they put £1,000 on. Then they've added the £500. They haven't had £1,500 at all, those workers. They've had £500. So it's a myth to say it's 8%. And it's the same all the way through. And we're quite clear, and I said this last night, Chris, and I'll say it again. I'm not ashamed to say it. Should we be looking towards the lower paid in BT and in Openreach? I believe we should. I think it's the right thing to do, but not in the way the company has done it. So what we need from the company is more money on the table from the company overall. Then we, the CW, will have a discussion with our members, and we will have a discussion with our executive and decide how that money should be spread. And if it does still mean there's a bit more goes to the bottom end than the top, so be it. But the margins at this point in time are far too low. Some people certainly working in Openreach, are getting the equivalent of 3.8%. Don't tell me 3.8% is good enough in this year. It is certainly not. And I know that all those patch leads out there, all the D1s, repayments planners, all the C3s that we've got out there, etc. This is a time for you. Yes, you may be in higher rates of pay than elsewhere, but fine well that 3-4% is not enough for you, and you obviously need to vote yes in this one. But we have to support every grade in Openreach.
Thank you, Andy. Fantastic. I'm going to come back to you just quickly if I can. Loads of people on exactly the same subject matter asking if we will be seeking for the pay, whatever we settle on, to be backdated, because people are saying they're being hit right now at this point.
I can assure you there's no doubt about that whatsoever. Our position is quite clear. The pay date, as far as we're concerned, is April 1st, 2022. And if we get back into negotiations with the company and get them back into the table and we can start discussing pay, it is certainly our view that should, whatever we get, and if we can get, whatever we get in addition to what's been given just now, we would want it backdated to April 2022. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And I just want to say one other thing, just so we're quite clear on it. If we get back into negotiations, and the only way I believe we will get back into negotiations is with a massive yes vote. That's the bit that gives us the leverage. That's the piece. The company ain't going to budge unless we get this massive yes vote. Maybe then they'll sit up and listen to it, what we've been saying to them. And if we do get in there and we do get an improved offer that we believe, your executive believe is good enough, I want to make sure that everybody's clear. We will insist that we put it to you, the members, to agree or disagree. We're not having another, even if it's something additional, just to have it implemented. That's one of the reasons we're having this ballot in the first place, and that will not happen again. We will make sure you get the vote, whatever increase we can get it to, so you'll determine the outcome of this. Not me, not Karen, not Fiona, and certainly not Philip Johnson.
Thank you, Andy. Fantastic. Karen, another a question that's been really regularly asked is members who are facing sites being closed down under what they're terming the Better Workplace programme, and saying, like, I totally get this, totally support the union, but what is the union doing to save my job?
Yeah, right. And look, we covered this last night, and basically the Count Me In campaign gave us great leverage, right? It did give us great leverage, and we did get back into negotiations with the company, and we started to talk to them about the Better Workplace programme, amongst other things. And we made some progress, and we probably would have continued to have made progress in order to find a way forward if it wasn't for the fact that the pay negotiations then began with earnest, and as Andy said, a little later than we expected. And so we were diverted into the pay negotiations, and we all know where we got to with that, right? So we got to the end of the road with pay negotiations, and that's why we're where we are. That's why we're having this ballot, which is about pay and the imposition of pay. But we have not concluded our discussions on the Better Workplace programme. We have not concluded our discussions on alternative employment for people where site closures are taking place. We have not forgotten about any of those people or any of those sites. It is absolutely still on our agenda, very high on our agenda, and we will be going back into negotiations, hopefully, after this ballot is over, because at the moment, right, we have to resolve this ballot, and we have to resolve this issue on pay and the imposition of pay for us to be able to get back in and start talking to the company about, not just about the pay, but until this is over, we're not going to have the opportunity to talk to them about the other things that are on our agenda as well. So it's very much still on our radar, very much something we still intend to progress, and we have not forgotten about anybody in those sites. So I don't want anybody to feel, and I have seen some of the stuff on the social media, and I know people are really feeling as if that is something that's not being highlighted at the moment. And that is the case, because we're having a ballot on pay and the imposition of pay, and the legislation says that that is basically what we have to have the ballot on. So we need to deliver this ballot and get this ballot over and done with. Let's get a massive yes vote. Let's resolve the issue of pay, and then we can get back in there and start discussing a resolution to all of the other things that have been put on the back burner while this ballot is taking place on pay.
Thank you, Karen. Fiona, questions around the actual functionality of the ballot people are asking. Is the ballot by email? Obviously not. Can you just talk a little bit about the process, how people are going to receive it, and what they need to do critically? Yeah,
the ballot will be coming out in the post. That's where I know over the last couple of sessions that we've had, there's been links to find your closest post box. So if you find those links, you'll find your closest post box. So as soon as that ballot paper actually arrives, get it get it, tick that box where you vote yes, and get it straight into your post box. That's the logistics of the ballot. And once we get that ballot result on the 30th, then that's when we'll find out the result of what that ballot means.
Thank you, Phil. We just hit 9,000 views across all of our channels. That's fantastic. Keep pushing. Let's make it 10. Let's make it 15. Let's make it as many as we possibly can on here tonight. And of course, people who are not able to watch can watch it on catch up at their own leisure in the next couple of days. Andy, again, I'm seeing comment after comment about people you having to use food banks. And one just in front of me, an Openreach engineer who's having to use a food bank. This is like a well-paid job, and this shows the level of the crisis in the country, not just in this company. Did you ever think you'd see the day when employees of Openreach were forced to use food banks, and just how outrageous is that?
No, of course, I never did think I would get to that stage. Anybody working for BT, a blue chip company, one of the biggest companies in the UK and very profitable company in the UK, actually having people working for them that's having to use food banks, and it's outrageous. It's good that, and I said this last night, it's good that people in BT, Openreach, etc., are actually donating to food banks if they can, for other places, because that's what we do in a good society. But to actually have in contact centres, in some other workplaces we've had around the country, actually having food banks or banks for materials or certain goods to be put into for other people who work for BT to use. It's great that people absolutely donate to these things, and they should be commended for that if they can afford to do that. But for anybody working for this kind of company that needs that, it's a real indictment. It's an indictment, Chris, as you just said, in this country, and it really is an indictment in this country. But if you want me to speak about that for the next 5 hours, I will, and at great length if you want me about things that's going on in this country. But sticking to this, but it's bad enough that, but this company has also got it shows some loyalty. You've got loyalty to this company. You come out in the morning, you do a good job for this company. The loyalty goes both ways. Then the loyalty you want back is not just praise and a thank you from senior people in Openreach or senior people in BT thanking you. You want that done in a basis of wages and seeing what you get. And that's why we said last year, for the £1,000 last year, yes, that £1,000 would have been good last year had it been a gift and a thank you for what you've done in the pandemic, and you were worth it, probably worth more than that. But you should have got a pay rise last year, and you didn't. And this was the year. We made it clear to them last year that we would be coming this year, and we would expect a decent pay rise. This is not enough. It's simple as that. And I'll tell you, and I could go on at length about affordability of this. This company can well afford this. Forget the myths again about the competition. Forget the myths that they say, this company ain't going to go turn over, and fibre won't be built because you go and strike for on the basis of this. That is a complete and utter myth. This company has to understand that the workers are sticking together on this, and you are willing to fight, and you show you're willing to fight on pay. We will show them we're willing to fight for all the other issues that Karen just spoke about. So this is really, really important for us all.
Thank you, Andy. Some quick fire ones we can pick up. So when is the result? We've already covered that. The result will be on the 30th of June. Tony says, speak to everyone off this call, speak to 2 colleagues, convince them to vote yes, and we're going to get the right result. And Jabba says, can the union fine people who don't join the picket lines? We've cleared that up. No, absolutely not. But on a more serious note, again, going back to what Andy said and what Tony Kern said last night, if this is what management are putting out, then please get us in the examples, get us a report, absolutely, and we will deal with it as a union. Karen, question around structures from Emily here, who is saying, what percentage do we need in terms of the turnout and the yes vote to be able to take action? And why has the union chosen not to give work to rule as an option?
Right. So basically, when we do a ballot, industrial action ballot, we are governed by the law. And we do have to consult with our lawyers to make sure that we're getting it right. We have to make sure that we cover every single step, that we dot all the I's and all the T's in order to make sure the ballot is legal. In order for us to meet thresholds, it has to be 50% plus 0.1, so 50.01% basically of the people that we ballot have to return their ballot papers. And then of that 50.01%, more than half, obviously the majority, have to vote yes in order for it to enable us to take strike action. And the question on the ballot paper is the really important thing. So the question on the ballot paper will be about strike action. And once the question on the ballot paper has been asked, that then is the dispute. And you can't have a question which covers all bases, really. So basically the question on the ballot paper will be strike action. It won't be are you willing to participate in action short of strike action? And so therefore strike action is the thing that we will legally be entitled to do. And I kind of hope that's explained it. I don't know whether it has. Really,
yeah, I think it has done really well. Fiona, so obviously, you know, members now are coming towards the sort of latter end of the session. Members are asking, you know, I can see here a massive support, being honest with you, huge level of support and huge level of commitment to take the message on, which is fantastic. But there are some people on saying, you know, we're talking here as a collective, we're saying about the cost of living crisis, we're saying we know how hard it is, we're saying members using food banks. Some people are saying they just can't afford to take strike action. What would your message to be to members in that position?
Well, I put a question back and say, can you afford not to? It's a simple fact that they've imposed this pay deal, and it's what else will they impose? And the future, what about the future pay rises? They will impose those without having your say. So in reality, you haven't had a decent pay rise the last couple of years. So what's the pay rise going to be like for the next couple of years? That's where this is your chance to get your say, to vote yes. And again, can you afford not to? I don't believe anybody can afford not to.
Thank you, Fiona. Fantastic. So again, it's much like we did on the EE session, which was great, and the BT session. We're going to ask you now. We know that management will be watching this session. We're going to ask you to show your commitment to the union, show your commitment to the yes vote. If you are back in the union and you are prepared to get out there and convince others to do so, please just simply put "I'm voting yes" in the comments, and we'll share as many of those on screen as we possibly can. So simply, "I'm voting yes." Andy, lots of people are asking, saying obviously you've done, you've been in the position for a substantial amount of time. We've had some decent industrial relations with BT Group over the years. Basically, the question from the members is, what do you think's changed?
Well, I'll try and be. I don't know if I can be diplomatic in this one. But what's changed? The managers, the senior managers in this company, and their outlook. The board of this company has changed. That's what's changed in it, and their outlook is changed. And that's the really worrying thing. Yes, I mean, I've had very good relationships with many senior managers in BT over the years. And we did have disagreements on many occasions. I still have disagreements with the current managers, but we used to always try and find a way through it. But it takes two to tango, as they say. You know, it takes two to negotiate, and actually to negotiate, you have to be willing to compromise. And the union have always done that way in some respects. But this company are now in position. It's their way or no way. That's the way it is. And I think you've got to remember here is these people are a lot smarter than you and I. Obviously they are. And that's why they earn so much money as they do. Well, that's a load of rubbish for a start, isn't it? I don't believe that for 1 second. That's the case. What they don't understand is they don't understand what normal people have to do in a day-to-day basis and what they have to go through. The workers, they have no idea what it's like to be on the breadline. Never have done and never will do. And these people, and I said this last night, I'll say it again, this issue about this pay, we need this pay rise. Because these people at the top who make the decisions in this company, whether it's in the main board or whether it's in the exec board. Either way, it makes no difference. These people will come, have came, and they'll go. But they'll all go with major payouts for this company. All go with major. That's what happens. That's how it works. And they'll go on to some other company. You, meanwhile, are left with this company if you're lucky enough to have a job and the security that people need to have. So this is really crucial to us. That we get we win this ballot. And what I will say to you is this issue. Somebody mentioned there about workplace. Yeah, get on to workplace. Cram it, fill it up. Tell them you're voting yes on workplace. Because, I mean, according to the company, there's only 30 years that have got a problem. That I'm led to believe that one manager has said, well, let's show them there's 30,000 have got an issue with this company. Get onto that workplace tomorrow morning as soon as you can and voice your opinions on it. And let's crash the whole bloody thing. And the last thing I want to say, just on the impact of strike action. We are quite clear on this. We will do what we need to do to have the biggest impact in this company with the least amount of pain to you, our members. I can absolutely assure you of that. But first of all, what we need, and I'll keep on saying it, is a massive yes vote. So please, get out there, speak to each other, and get this vote done.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant, mate. And loads and loads of, I mean, I can't even keep up with the people saying they're voting yes, so fantastic and a huge response. Fiona, I'll come to you if I can. Tommy Traherne, I'm just going to put this on screen, obviously you can't see it, but the members will be able to, says, I really can't afford to go on strike because I live on my own and struggle every week, but I'll be voting yes and I'll be supporting the union if it comes to it. So, is this all about like members like Tommy and like, is there a case for saying to our members like, vote for Tommy? Like vote for people who are in that position like him. If you are fortunate enough to be in a better off position, how sort of powerful is that statement from him?
It's phenomenal. I want to say a massive thank you to Tommy, because people like Tommy that we need. I want to also thank you for even putting that comment there to show the reality, and that's what the reality is for many of our members and many of our Openreach members. The fact is that they are struggling. That is why we need a decent pay rise. The fact that you're even supporting the union whenever you are struggling, I'm hoping many others will realise and look at you, Tommy, as well, and realise that they need to do the same. And especially if people can't afford it, then that's where even more so you need to be able to vote. You need to vote yes to be able to help your colleagues like Tommy to be able to actually afford to be able to put food on the table, to be able to put heat in your homes, be able to get that fuel. Today alone, you see on the BBC News, it came out that the average cost of filling a tank of fuel has now gone up to £100. £100 to fill one tank of an average car. So everything else is going to go up. As Andy was saying earlier, your food bill is going to go up eventually too, because the cost of fuel is increasing. Everything's just increasing massively. And this is why we need to be able to get a decent pay rise for everyone.
Thank you, Fiona. Spot on, mate. And loads of support for that answer and all the answers tonight. So you've done a brilliant job of letting us know you're back in the union by putting I'm voting yes in the comment. Obviously, as both Karen, Andy, and Fiona have said tonight, that's part one we need you to do. Part two is go out there once you've done that and convince your colleagues to do the same. So if you are prepared to, go that extra mile, deliver your own vote, post it away, but then come back and get in the workplace and convince others to do it, and you're prepared to become the union, right from the leadership right down to the shop floor, then just simply put I am the union in the comments now. So if you're prepared to get out there after tonight and get out and sell the union's message, just put I am the union in the comments and we'll share as many of those as we possibly can on screen. Karen, touching on the answer Fiona gave there and the comment from Tommy was, it is sort of humbling to see some of the stuff from our members. It's also desperate, isn't it? Because they are aren't feeling, and we're proud of them for feeling the confidence to come on and say, but actually they're almost in a situation where they're like, they're begging the union to do something about it because management have turned their backs on them. Like, how serious is this situation? How serious and how vital is it that people grab that ballot paper, they get it back, and we show how we feel and we turn anger into action?
Absolutely. It's really serious. And we don't want any of our members to be in that position. We don't want any of our members to be wondering, what they're going to spend their money on, whether that be heat or fuel or food. We don't want any of them in that position. And we would have liked to have reached a negotiated settlement that actually mitigated and made sure that people weren't in that position. But the company haven't allowed us to do that. And so the reason why we have taken this step of this industrial action ballot is actually to get you the decent pay, the pay you've earned, the pay you deserve, in order to ensure that our members are not in a position where they are worried about where the next pint of milk is coming from, or whether they can afford to put the heating on when the winter comes. We want to resolve this. We need to return a massive yes vote, and then we will resolve this. If we return a massive yes vote, I am absolutely confident that we will move this company and we will get the pay rise that you have all earned, and you'll have less worries about whether you can meet the cost of living that we'll all see an increase on a daily rate at the moment. So the only way to resolve those issues for people like Tommy and all of those other members out there, because there are hundreds and probably thousands of our members that are in that same position, and we've heard about some of them on all of these live events that we've done. And the only way we're going to be able to resolve the situation for them is to return a massive yes vote in this ballot and to get them the decent pay rise that they have earned.
Thank you, Karen. Loads and loads more support. Also, tons of people saying, I am union. Keep those coming. We'll keep sharing them when we can. It really is inspiring. It's one of those I'm Spartacus moments. Maybe you should take that on to the workplace. Maybe you should tell them you are the union. Andy, final question, and then I'm going to give everyone a chance, finishing with you, to round the session up, is Martin has been asking a few times, and we haven't missed it, Martin. I wanted to ask it at the end, but he's saying, why can't we get more press and media coverage? And I've wondered if you could, he's saying the RMT are doing a great job, which they are. They've done a fantastic job, our friends at the RMT for the Rail Workers Union. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the stages of the process and how we'll go through that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just want to endorse what Chris has just said there about the RMT. Look to the RMT and you know, show what we can do here. We can do the same as them, and we're balloting roughly about the same amount of people. That funnily enough, the RMT balloted around about the 40,000 mark. So there's similarities in that respect. Yes, we're building up. Yes, we'll get into the media. No doubt whatsoever. We will start to get into media. Though no doubt the media, some of the media will certainly attack us because that's what they do. But there might be others that don't. But we will be involved in getting it out there into the media when we can, as we build up, as Chris has just said. So the main thing at the moment is to build up the communications with yourselves. And you expect early next week you will get a postcard from us outlining the ballot. You'll get the ballot paper. There's information in that. We'll give more information out next week, whether it be by mail, certainly by text, because we do know that texting is a good way. So we will be sending stuff out. So you've got your mobile numbers. We will be sending you stuff out. You'll be able to open it up, click a link, and get into more information. And that information will start to flow out, and it will start to hit the press. We did have some press coverage. At the moment, a lot of the press coverage, in industrial matters, is focused to the RMT. As we move on through this, it will start to come into ourselves in the CWU. But I can assure you, but we don't win ballots by the media, that sort of media. We don't have any great, I don't expect the Daily Telegraph or the Sunday Times to come out and say, you've done a great job here, Andy, with the CWU, and we hope that all your members vote yes. And that's cloud cuckoo land. The press are not our buddies. Well, most of the press are not our buddies, very stretched in imagination. But we will use the press, and they will set up, because we will people understand that we have kept this country going. And that's the piece that has to be done. And as we move through into the new technologies, the job that you're doing today is building the economy for this UK tomorrow. And the quicker politicians actually stand up and understand it, and politicians actually start to understand the need for telecoms workers in this country, and the work that you do that's going to create the growth for this country in the future, the better. So the politicians, we will start to talk to them and get them on board supporting us. And we would expect politicians to support us, and we know a lot will. So you will see much more over the coming days as we build up into that ballot, and turn, as we go through the ballot, and certainly at the end of the ballot, we will turn the communications up. Chris and his colleagues in the comms department here will certainly be working, night and day on this, as we all will. But you will see this built up over the next few weeks.
Thank you, Andy. Fantastic. So some great response. Matthew Murray says he's an apprentice. New hashtag, he says, apprentices vote yes. So well done, Matthew. We've also said there's a hashtag workplace takeover. And PS on YouTube is saying that he will speak to 10 engineers tomorrow and convince every single one of them to vote yes. So well done. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to give you all now, starting with yourself, Fiona, a chance to send your final messages at the end of the session to the members on just what's at stake, just how crucial it is we deliver this ballot.
Firstly, I want to say thank you for even taking the time tonight to actually watch this. It shows your support and how much it actually means. And it also shows the company how much support that we have in the background as well. But it is so vitally important that we get that massive yes vote. If you still have further questions, I would say speak to your local branches and local representatives, because Andy says there are so many myths out there that we don't want you to believe in those myths. So if managers are saying things to you, check with your local branch, check with your local reps, find out whether it's the truth or whether it's lies, because we can't have you listening to those myths and the lies, basically. But also the fact is that you've proven yourselves across Openreach. No matter what role you did in Openreach, it was vitally important, and especially during the pandemic, it proved how much you're needed for this country, never mind just the business alone. The business profited so much and is still profiting. And this is why we need to ensure that you get a decent pay rise at the cost of living. And also you need to have your say. You need to be able to vote and say whether you support the pay rise the company are given. And this is why it is so important. It's so important for this year and for the future years to come.
Thank you, Fiona. Brilliant. And loads of support for all of our panelists tonight. Emily says one of the best sessions yet. Well done, all voting yes with a smile on that. And that's great to see that level of confidence. And Kevin says, thanks all, brilliant session. Thanks to the live team as well, much appreciated. Karen, your final message to our members this evening.
Well, I suppose my final message has been the same on every occasion, really. And it is, look, I think that hopefully with all the information that we've sent to you and all the things that we've said on these live events, and hopefully with our branch officers busting myths, I think that we have laid out a case very, very clearly and concisely about why it's so important for you to vote and vote yes in this ballot. It is about you. It is about your future. You are the union. We are not the union. And I've said this on many occasions as well. So the union isn't me or Fiona or Andy or Chris. It's all of you. You are the union. You are a collective. You stand up for each other, with each other, and voting a massive yes vote in this ballot will be you making a stand for yourselves and saying, we need a decent pay rise. We have earned it. We deserve it. And now we want it.
Thank you, Karen. Fantastic. Andy, all of us, as a strong, powerful trade union that's delivered some fantastic agreements over decades and looked after our members. But none of us do this to see our members using food banks or not being able to afford to get to work. Your message for the members up to close the session, please, buddy.
Oh, yeah, well, I just endorse everything that Karen and Fiona have said. Look, this is absolutely crucial to us. We have done some really good deals. In fact, we've done some groundbreaking deals over the years. We've always kept track with inflation there or thereabouts over the years. We've done very well in our pay negotiations up until 2 or 3 years ago, and you can start to make connections to that if you like. To go back to what I say about people who have come into the business and their view on life. You deserve this pay rise. Do not sit down and think the company said, that one of the senior managers said, I think on an Openreach forum a couple of weeks back, was, you know, the company can't afford it, and all you're doing is going into the hands of the competition. That is not true at all. It's not true. They can afford it. They're saying that they're investing in fibre, as I said before. They should invest in their people. They are paying out, and I made this point last night. Fiona touched on it earlier. They're paying out this year £761 million to their shareholders. One of those shareholders is Deutsche Telekom, a German company. So 10% of that 761, so you can work that out quite easily, is going into the German coffers, not going into this country, not going into your pocket. Then you've got 18% owned by Patrick Drahi. That 18% of that money is going out. Where is it going? Is it going to his Moroccan place, or is it going to his French, or his Israeli place, or is it going into his big bank in Switzerland? I suspect that's the one where it's going to, his big bank account in Switzerland. So he's taking masses of money out of it. These people can afford to pay this money. They can either take it out the profit, they can take it out the shareholder, or they can cut back in some of the savings they've made, because they're already over a year ahead of the savings. One of the biggest savings they made over the last couple of years has been on wage costs. It's been on wage costs. Well, they've cut too far in some areas. This is the time to pay some of that back. And it's actually a fraction of what that profit is that they need to resolve this dispute. So don't be afraid in any way, shape or form for managers. Stand up against them. Because actually, and I said this last night, we have a lot of managers in Openreach, first line managers especially, who are supportive of us on what we're doing, because they deserve a pay rise too, because they're not been treated very fairly in my opinion. But there is some people, I won't say what I said last night on this occasion, but there is some managers who are a little bit over enthusiastic, shall we say. Well, stand up against them. Tell them to go away in whatever way you might want to use another phrase, if you like, in that one. But tell them, because I certainly would, tell them to go away and go and speak to somebody else about some of these issues, because I'm not speaking to you. Don't you listen to what they've got to say. You can afford it. This company can afford to pay you the money. You deserve this money. There's no question about it whatsoever. And this ballot is absolutely crucial to us. We win this ballot, they'll understand that we are willing to fight on issues and all the other issues that are to come. So this is absolutely crucial. So please, next week, get that ballot paper, put the cross in the box, put it in the post box, and convince every one of your work colleagues. Make sure they're voted too. So thanks.
Thank you, Andy. Absolutely fantastic. So first of all, to thank our brilliant panel tonight. You've all been excellent. Once again, giving up your evening to address the members. I know everyone appreciates it. More than that, though, it's our job to thank you as the members for coming on in your thousands. Absolutely. And also thank you for your backing tonight. It's been absolutely inspirational. The ballot papers, as every one of the panelists has said, dispatched on the 15th via post. You've got to keep reiterating that. It's your job to get it back in the post, and our CW members in Royal Mail will be delighted to deliver those ballot papers in their tens of thousands. So please do this. I saw a quote here, and I'm going to use this to close the session. It says, the choice is very simple. You back your union or you back Food Bank Phil. We know you're going to make the right choice, everyone. Good night.